2 cottagecore videos back to back because there's no better time to post this than right now when spring is right around the corner. So today we're going to be talking about budget-friendly ways that you can implement the cottagecore aesthetic into your home. But what is cottagecore? If you don't know, let's talk about it. Cottagecore is an internet aesthetic that is based on life in the English countryside. It was developed throughout 2010 and was named Cottagecore officially in 2018. As a concept, it embraces a simpler, sustainable existence that is more harmonious with nature. It's a lifestyle that is rooted in traditional skills such as gardening, baking, making your own clothes, and more. So the first ideas take place in the kitchen, and I feel like if you're going for a cottagecore aesthetic but you don't want it to take over your entire house, the kitchen is a really good place to start because the kitchen is really like the heart of the home, especially in a cottage where you're baking bread and you're making meals all the time. So it's a good place to start to kind of give that cottage feel, and it can be achieved pretty easily in the kitchen. If you move into a house, odds are that you have cabinet doors in your kitchen. And so for this idea, all you have to do is take off the cabinet doors. It costs you $0 to do this, and it's going to make a very noticeable change. Here are some examples. You don't have to do the entire kitchen. You could just do one section, and then it gives you the opportunity to display your dishes in a cute way. Perhaps you paint the inside of the cabinet to add some color in there. And then that takes me to the next option, which is by also removing the doors on the lower cabinets and adding a cafe curtain in there. I love this idea because I think it adds such a unique flair to a room. You get the texture of the curtains, you get a pattern, and you can also bring in some color on the curtains. And it's just not something you would see in homes today. Like if you were to go into a newly renovated home, you would never see that. So for me, it fits perfectly into an English countryside cottage. Also, it's inexpensive. It's inexpensive and it's a great way to hide things. Even if you had a sink in a bathroom and it's like one of those 1920s sinks that just have the metal legs and you're not a fan because you can't have any storage under there, you could just put up a curtain and add this whole new element to the space. The next one is easy, and that is by displaying all of your ingredients in mason jars or a glass jar of some sort and displaying them on shelves. You don't even have to put them on shelves. If you do the open storage cabinet, then technically you could just put them in the cabinet and have them lined up, and it looks so pretty. But because cottagecore does embrace baking and being in the kitchen, having your ingredients on display is perfect for that cottage feel. You can also do this with your spices as well. You can buy some kits online that include the labels for what the spices are. I want to do this one day, but right now I don't have enough spices to actually do that. But if you're the type of person that cooks a lot, it's very convenient and it looks really aesthetic. The next idea is easy, and that is by displaying things you already own. Your pots and pans. There are many different ways you can hang them in different places in your kitchen, but I will say having the all copper really is a vibe. It looks really nice. It looks very cohesive. And when you display something like this, especially if you live in a small home, it can make your space feel overstimulating and cluttered. But what can help that a little bit is if your pots and pans are all the same color, it's going to make it feel a bit more cohesive. It's not going to be as bad as if every single pan was a different material. As you can tell, the copper looks beautiful. It brings in a nice color into the kitchen. It's like a warm tone, makes it feel more cozy, and cottagecore lifestyle is all about living in a cozy, comfortable space, and the copper over any other color really does that. The next idea is super simple, and that is just by adding a tablecloth. Good way to bring in some color, a pattern, and if you have a larger space, it can also visually look like it's taking up more surface area in your room because the tablecloth drapes off of the sides of the table and it makes it look like a larger item. You can go for a small tablecloth, a larger tablecloth. Any and all of these options I am showing are totally great. And maybe you even have a bed sheet that could work as a tablecloth and you just cut it to size. And keep in mind, it's super easy to thrift fabric. So if you're looking for a tablecloth, you could go and find one at a thrift store. You could also find a curtain and use that instead. You could use a bed sheet that's just has the pattern you're wanting. So don't think you need to go and buy a specific one. You could easily thrift one, and most likely, because it's old and it's used, it's just going to work better. The next idea, which is going to cost you a kombucha, is by propagating plants at home. So you will need a glass bottle for this. I said a kombucha because that's what I would go and buy, and I got a drink out of it, you know, and I would use those bottles to propagate my plants. But if you already have glass bottles that you can use, well, that's even better because you don't have to go out and buy anything. So all you're going to need is a glass bottle. You're going to fill it with some water, and you're going to go out and about in nature, and you're going to take some trimmings of plants. And then you can bring those plants home and put them into the glass bottles and start propagating some little beauties for you to have in your home. It's amazing. This costs you nothing to do. Now, if you are going out and doing this, you're going to have to look up videos for specific plants you are wanting to propagate, because it can vary depending on the plant that you're getting trimmings from, but it is such an easy idea. And even if you have a neighbor or a friend that has a plant, you can just say, hey, do you mind if I cut off a trimming from your plant so I can propagate some at home? Done. Look how easy that is. And then you can have your own little garden. And even better, you can do this with herbs as well. The next idea is by painting some floral details on a candle you already have. And if you don't have a candle, you can easily go and get a candle from the dollar store for $1, and you could easily get acrylic paint for the low price of 60 cents to, you know, $5 at any arts and crafts store. And if you're gonna need paint brushes too, I mean, you're gonna have to get that as well, and you can buy those in kits for a very affordable price. I really liked this idea because it is a DIY, and it's a interesting way to bring in those floral elements and add some color to your space on something as simple as a candle. Now, if you are going to do this on candle tapers, do not burn them because acrylic paint is toxic. If you burn it and you breathe in those fumes, it's awful. So do not do that. But you can definitely paint them and just have them on display because it does look cute. If you are wanting to burn a candle though, I would recommend using a candle like this, like what I did, because the acrylic paint is not going to burn. Another really easy budget-friendly idea is by making a cottage window. This might be a cross-stitch window. I don't know if I just made that up or if I've actually read it before. This is it. And all you do is you buy electrical tape, which doesn't cost a lot. It's probably around like $5 to $8. And you're going to tape the pattern onto your window. It is very simply done. It's something I'm going to be doing in an upcoming makeover, so I will actually have video to show. But here are some pictures and photos of other people doing it. And it's one of those things, kind of like the cafe curtains on the cabinets or just having open storage cabinets in your kitchen. It's almost like a standalone piece. Like you see it and you're like, wow, that is a focal point in this space. That's kind of what you want if you're trying to make an ode to something in your house and you don't want to go all over. It needs to be like a section of your home. Another incredible DIY that you can do in your home to really give off a cottage feel is a grid window. You can do this using electrical tape, but if you want to go a step further to really make it more realistic looking, is you can use some trim. If you are looking to do this, I will link the tutorial below for you. But I think this idea is so neat because if you have a sliding glass door or if you just have normal windows like most of us do and you want to add more detail to them and you don't want to do that cottage window, you can do this instead. And since we're talking about windows, it's time to talk about window treatments, which is a must in any home. I swear by it. So again, you could go for the previous patterns and textures I mentioned earlier, such as the lace, the crochet, the gingham print, the plaid, the floral, or any neutral color, or even a bright color, because in the cottagecore world, you will find that there are lots of different patterns mixed and matched. We want some drapes or curtains, valances, and we want some cafe curtains. You can have all or one. Okay, what do we have next? Oh, another idea for something in your kitchen, but this can technically go anywhere in your home, wherever you need storage. Consider putting stuff in baskets if you need extra storage and you have open storage, which would be a cabinet that is open and exposed, because maybe you don't want all of your things showing. Maybe you have some things that you need hidden or you want hidden, and adding a basket is a good element to mix in the cottagecore. It really blends well, and it adds texture, adds some warmer tones into the home, and it looks cute. The next idea is by adding some vintage plates onto the wall. The ones that I commonly see are called 𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘𝚘 plates. I do like these though, because they were an older plate that was popular in the 20s, and they always have like a landscape type artwork on them. It's going to cost you next to nothing to make this art display on the wall. And you can also use the plates too. So don't think just because you're buying these that, oh, that means I can't use them. You could technically use them. They are plates, but it is a really good focal point in a kitchen, especially, or even over a console table or somewhere else in your home. Another idea is to get embroidery kits, and this can serve as an art piece. You could put it in your bathroom, you could put it in your living room, you could put it in your kitchen, and these kits run around $5 to $15, very inexpensive. I saw a pack of 3, a beginner embroidery kit, pack of 3 for $14 on Amazon, which is really good. Now you really got to be in the mood to sit down and do this, because I'm sure it's going to take some time. I've personally never done it, but it's a really cute idea for an art piece because you make it yourself, it's inexpensive, it adds floral details, and it's texturized. Next, you can do a bedsheet wallpaper like what you see behind me by nailing it up with weather strip nails, using tacks, or using a paint on starch, not paint on starch, starch, by using starch. And all you do is you just purchase a vintage bed sheet to bring in some florals into your space. But of course you don't have to go with florals like this. You could go with stripes, you could go with plaid, gingham print, polka dots. There are so many different options. And the reason I'm naming all these different ones, and you might be thinking, oh, that's not gonna work, is because I always see so many different patterns when I look at an English countryside cottage. There is a mixture of colors and textures and patterns. So it just feels more authentic to say different patterns, if that makes sense. Maybe this is just me. I don't know. And if you are going to bring in, you know, curtains, wallpaper, rug, bed sheet, all those different things, make sure you find a common color between all of them so they just feel more cohesive and it's not just all over the place. We want to try to keep it a little bit cohesive. Now moving on to the bedspread, because even if you have a plain bedroom, white walls, nothing to it, if you add a duvet cover that has a pattern or some beautiful texture to it, it's really going to elevate the space and be a focal point for the room. It's almost like its own art piece. It adds in all the color that you need. You don't need anything else. So, of course, duvets have to be on this list, along with a bed skirt. Bed skirts are perfect in a cottage home. Also, it hides everything under your bed. Why wouldn't you want that, you know? For a duvet cover, you can look for something that's gingham print, floral, something that has some ruched detail, something that has ruffles. You could go for neutrals that have ruffles. Look for something vintage. It's entirely up to you. And then, of course, bring in some nice pillows that maybe have some ruffles, some embroidered detailing. And the great thing about this is you're always going to use it. It's going to get the most use possible because you sleep in it all the time. So the last two is by incorporating plants into your home, which is super simple, and by putting up a vine wall and adding some fake flowers as well. But normally if you were in a cottage, you're not going to see this on the inside of a cottage, you would see it on the outside of a cottage. So it just really depends if you want it to be realistic, or it just depends if you want to bring more color into your home, more texture, have a focal point in a room, and bring those nature vibes from outside inside. I do like this though, because it is affordable for these vines, and if you have little to no money to spend, if you have 15 bucks to spend, this will be the best bang for your buck in terms of buying something, because it can be spread so far, which is great. So that is it for all of my budget-friendly cottagecore ideas. Hopefully this gave you some cool ideas, and even if you're not into cottagecore, I feel like there were a lot of things on this list that I would personally want to incorporate into my home because I felt they were so unique. Like the cafe curtains in the kitchen, or just removing the cabinet doors from my kitchen. I just think it's so cool. So anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for being here, hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.